government, that's the Tamil Nadu government, in 1982, and he embraced Islam in 1987. He says, "In Islam, I found suitable replies to nagging queries arising in my mind with regard to the theory of creation, the status of women, creation of the universe, etc. The life history of the Holy Prophet attracted me very much and made easy for me to compare with other world leaders and their philosophies." His present address is One Ashok Avenue, Rangarajapuram, Chodambaham, Madras, India. 5. Herbert Khabon, now Aman Khabon. He's a German diplomat, missionary and social worker, an intellectual who has been serving the German diplomatic mission in various parts of the world. He's presently working as the cultural attaché in the German embassy in Riyadh, and he embraced Islam in 1941. He says, "I have lived under different systems of life and have had the opportunity of studying various ideologies, but have come to the conclusion that none is as perfect as Islam. None of the systems has got a complete code of a noble life. Only Islam has it, and that is why good men embrace it. Islam is not theoretical, it is practical. It means complete submission to the will of God." His present address, Cultural Attaché, German Embassy, PO Box 8974, Riyadh 11492, Saudi Arabia. 6. Cat Stevens, now Yusuf Islam. British, formerly Christian, he was a world-famous pop singer. He embraced Islam in 1973. He says, "It will be wrong to judge Islam in the light of the behavior of some bad Muslims who are always shown on the media. It is like judging a car as a bad one if the driver of the car is drunk and he bangs it into a wall. Islam guides all human beings in their daily lives, in its spiritual, mental and physical dimensions. But we must find the sources of these instructions, the Quran and the example of the Prophet. Then we can see the ideal of Islam." His present address is Chairman, Muslim Aid, 3 Furlong Road, London, N7 in England. 7. Margaret Marcus, now Miriam Jamila, American, formerly Jewish, essayist and journalist. She is the author of many books, and she embraced Islam in 1962. She says, "The authority of Islamic morals and laws proceeds from Almighty God. Pleasure and happiness in Islam are both the natural byproducts of emotional satisfaction in one's duties conscientiously performed for the pleasure of God to achieve salvation. In Islam, duties are always stressed above rights. Only in Islam was my quest for absolute values satisfied. Only in Islam did I at last find all that was true, good, beautiful, and which gives meaning and direction to human life and death." Present address is care of Mr. Muhammad Yusuf Khan, Sant Nagar, Lahore, Pakistan. 8. Wilfred Hoffman, now Murad Hoffman. He has a PhD in law from Harvard. He is German, social scientist and diplomat. He is presently the German ambassador in Algiers. He embraced Islam in 1980. He says, "For some time now, striving for more and more precision and brevity, I have tried to put on paper in a systematic way all philosophical truths which in my view can be ascertained beyond reasonable doubt. In the course of this effort it dawned on me that the typical attitude of an agnostic is not an intelligent one, that man simply cannot escape the decision to believe, that the createdness of what exists around us is obvious, that Islam undoubtedly finds itself in the greatest harmony with overall reality. Thus I realized, not without shock, that step by step, in spite of myself, and almost unconsciously, in feeling and thinking, I have grown into a Muslim. Only one last step remained to be taken, to formally my conversion. As of today, I am a Muslim. I have arrived." His present address is the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany, BP 664, Algiers, Algeria. 9. Cassius Clay, now Muhammad Ali Clay, American boxer who was 3 times the world heavyweight champion. He was formerly Christian and he embraced Islam in 1965. He says, "I have had many nice moments in my life, But the feelings I had while standing on Mount Arafat on the day of Hajj, the Muslims' pilgrimage, was the most unique. I felt exalted by the indescribable spiritual atmosphere there as over 1.5 million pilgrims invoked God to forgive them of their sins and bestow on them his choicest blessings. It was an exhilarating experience to see people belonging to different colors, races and nationalities, kings, heads of states and ordinary men from very poor countries, all clad in 2 simple white sheets, praying to God without any sense of either pride or inferiority. It was a practical manifestation of the concept of equality in Islam. Speaking to the Daily al-Madina newspaper in Jeddah, the 15th of July, 1989. His present address is 1200E, 49th Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60615. These were the impressions of a few persons who had themselves been struck by the sword of truth. As for the propaganda, that it was a sword of steel, i.e. the force which was instrumental in the universal expansion of Islam, we give below remarks of some prominent non-Muslims refuting this baseless claim. First, M.K. Gandhi. I became more than ever convinced that it was not the sword that won a place for Islam in those days in the scheme of life. It was the rigid simplicity, the utter self-effacement of the Prophet, the scrupulous regard for his pledges, his intense devotion to his friends and followers, his intrepidity, his fearlessness, his absolute trust in God and in his own mission. These, and not the sword, carried everything before them and surmounted every trouble. This was published in Young India in 1924. 2. Edward Gibbon. The greatest success of Muhammad's life was effected by sheer moral force without the stroke of a sword. This is in the History of the Saracen Empire, London, 1870. 3. A.S. Tritton. The picture of the Muslim soldier advancing with a sword in one hand and a Quran in the other is quite false. This was in Islam, London, 1951, page 21. 4. Tilasi O'Leary. History makes it clear, however, that the legend of fanatical Muslims sweeping through the world and forcing Islam at the point of sword upon conquered races is one of the most fantastically observed myths that historians have ever repeated. This is in Islam at the Crossroads, London, 1923, page 8. 5. K.S. Ramakrishna Rao. My problem to write this monograph is easier because we are not generally fed now on that distorted kind of history, and much time needs to be spent on pointing out misrepresentations of Islam. The theory of Islam and the sword, for instance, is not heard now in any quarter worth the name. The principle of Islam, that there is no compulsion in religion, is well known. This is in his book, Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, published in Riyadh in 1989, page 4. 6. James A. Michener. No other religion in history spread so rapidly as Islam. The West has widely believed that this surge of religion was made possible by the sword, but no modern scholar accepts that idea, and the Quran is explicit in support of the freedom of conscience. This is in Islam, the Misunderstood Religion, Reader's Digest, American edition, May 1955. 7. Lawrence E. Brown. Incidentally, these well-established facts dispose of the idea so widely fostered in Christian writings that the Muslims, wherever they went, forced people to accept Islam at the point of the sword. This was published in the Prospects of Islam, London, 1944. If you have an objective mind, or an open mind, why not read some of these suggested readings on Islam? There's a series on Islam published by the World Association of Muslim Youth. Towards Understanding Islam by Maududi. Islam, Our Choice by the World Association of Muslim Youth. The Quran, Basic Teachings by T.B. Irving and J. Ahmed. The Holy Quran, Text, Translation and Commentary